There are growing calls for urgent intervention following clashes between Dudula movement members and foreign nationals. In the most recent incident, Alexandra residents targeted foreign traders, accusing them of taking jobs from locals. We're joined now by National Assembly Deputy Speaker Lechesa Tsenoli. Tsenoli, good evening to you. Thank you for your time tonight. It is such an important social issue that needs to be confronted here. It's stemming out of very real problems that South Africans have, and yet at the same time, the potential to run into complete disaster and chaos seems to be heightened by the day. How is Parliament responding to this?
Well, firstly, Kathy, there has been a number of initiatives that have been taken by those appropriate. In other words, listening to the Department of Labour and Employment and its reaction to these developments. The appropriate committees have been hearing that. And in the course of doing oversight, many committees are engaged, and we will soon get to hear some of the emerging reports that they are proposing, because ultimately it is the work we do as public representatives in our communities to persuade people to always respect being law governed instead of taking the law into their own hands. Because even no matter how well-intentioned things might be, and those who initiate them might be, and the initial discussions about how do we, for example, on this matter, how do we share insights with foreign nationals who are here, especially those who are properly documented and so on, then degenerate into a fight against foreign nationals is a big problem. As usual, we then break the law. We are a democratic country. We have commitments to treating others with respect in our country. Otherwise, it has bad consequences for all South Africans in the rest of the world, as we know that would happen. So we hope that the results of the oversight committees and the reports that the departments that do inspections and have a mandate to do this, including the initiatives underway now in some of the departments to improve the legislation that is to apply across the board, so that there is a measure that is recognized of handling this thing better. And we do not allow people to take the law into their own hands. It's never good. People always exceed what otherwise we would have thought they would talk properly and have discussions where the police will take over. But unfortunately, it never happens that way. This is why it is not the moment things degenerate into this kind of activities. It's dangerous. It's not healthy for any communities.
Tsenoli, so basically you are saying that Parliament is going to be directed by the feedback from the committees who of course are having different engagements, whether with the departments or even with communities. So the challenge here is that when you go to the heart of the issues that are being raised by South Africans, some of those problems stem from a failure within government to actually implement what the policies are. You talk about the Labour Department. This is a department that has, by and large, been accused of having failed to conduct inspections at, businesses across the board to ensure that there is compliance with the minimum standards and expectations. And the question here is really about accountability. How is Parliament making sure that you are taking the lead where accountability is concerned? Because hearing the feedback from these departments who have contributed to the situation being the way that it is may not move us forward.
No, it will move us forward. There's no question about it. The issue we can quarrel about is the speed with which that happens. But also we must be alive to the reality of the unfortunate economic status the country is and the capacity of each of the departments to handle these matters effectively and speedily, for example. Because things on the assumption that people have been spoken to, have agreed to do things, spring up elsewhere and so on. So it's an ongoing contestation. And the changes in the law that are in the making arises from exactly these things that you say departments are meant to do. Departments and or parliament can't act arbitrarily. We must ourselves act within the law. And as soon as that is done, then implementation must be, what is the word, to describe capacity of, for example, the Department of Labor to have sufficient number of inspectorates. If because of budget processes that are transparent, that demonstrate how limited the money is, our ability to do those things that people would ideally like us to see doing is at a disadvantage, and it will not happen effectively. So we have to work in a very tight, financially difficult environment to handle the practical inspection. And these inspections are also about people advising them to act legally. There is no excuse for people to act illegally, to act in a manner that's vigilantism. People die as a result. And so they will be arrested, unfortunately, if people continue to do those kind of things. It's a difficult thing that we must treat carefully with sensitivity. It has bigger implications elsewhere. Accountability, yes. And part of the reason, Honorable Mutsaledi, you had him talk to this matter, and not only they are working together as 2, 3, 4 departments, including the security cluster, so that we can nab those who are criminally intended. They don't care those who want convenience, those who want economic opportunity, but they are thieves and they are criminals, and they take advantage of the processes underway for people to determine those opportunities. So they communicate that frequently, and unfortunately, the impatience is going to run us into trouble if people do not recognize the value of first working consultatively and then arising out of those processes, giving expression to practical solutions that will be sustainable over a long period of time.
The difficulty here is that these problems are not new to the country and would certainly not be new before Parliament. And so when you talk about even the economic constraints under which departments are having to work, it is Parliament that is passing and approving budgets. If, in fact, there has been a concern about the fact that the way in which resources are allocated does not respond primarily to the nature of challenges that we have in our society, then why has Parliament been approving these various budgets?
We cannot approve budgets, no matter how limited they are. As they say, Kathy, if wishes were horses, we would have demanded and insisted on bigger budgets to provide for the implementation focus of inspectorates, for example, but also in the broad support that are developing around supporting small business operations, and then dealing with those who are illegal in the country in a manner that is consistent with our obligations internationally. Even if it is an old problem, unfortunately, there are many factors, not just financial. That's an important value, because without the resources to undertake both the swift prevention of problems arising from the economic opportunities that people arrive undocumented, there's a slow process of their documentation. And what ends up happening is that, being economic refugees, they take advantage of opportunities they see, even if they do not have documentation. So it is the speeding up of those processes as quickly as we can, given the resources at our disposal. We can not, Parliament, for example, pass resources. The budget proposal emerged from the consideration of what the country has collected, has contributed to by way of taxes, and those who are stealing the money, and those who are hiding it in foreign institutions and so on, so that those, if contained as they are, frequently we hear of their arrest and capture, that they have been found to be preventing SARS from getting its resources, because those resources would go to support that each department, such as Department of Labor and the Department of Small Business, for example, and the rules for running business between South Africans and foreign nationals are handled in a manner that is sensitive without sacrificing the relationships amongst people. Our questions about the speed with which we work must not give others the assumption that they now have freedom to take the law into their hands. It is incorrect, it is inappropriate, and unfortunately the law is going to have to be felt even in those ranks amongst themselves. Operation Dudula, although from what I know, the initial impression we got was interesting negotiations going on. How it has now become hijacked into what is happening is a different story that I don't understand.
All right, let's leave it there for tonight. National Assembly Deputy Speaker Lechesa Tsenoli.